And it's telling the stories about Indianapolis because, some of them are rather mundane. If you can make them kind of interesting and get people like, oh, I never knew that. Or I walked past this building, or I walked past this area of the city. I've driven through this area of the city, had no idea. And especially with like our neighborhood, there's constantly changes. There's a lot of younger families moving in, older generations passing on. There's people who aren't familiar with the history of the neighborhood, and that's what I'm hoping to do is kind of let them know about that history, about especially the integration period, the civil rights era in the neighborhood, and how that should, how that's going forward, how we're still, tackling those issues.
Scared rabbit, they've got you boxed in. Old habit, you draw the curtain.
Hello, my name is Michael Zarek. This is Third Space Indy. This is a podcast where we talk to community builders, leaders, and organizers. Today, I'm joined by Ed Fujawa. Ed is a local historian, although it's funny because I think he works for the state insurance agency.
I do, and thank you, Michael. I do. I do consider myself a local historian, but by day I'm an attorney for the Indiana Department of Insurance.
Yeah. So Ed was born in Boulder, Colorado, but as a young lad was lifted away to Greenwood, Indiana, and then in 2000, I believe, attended IU Bloomington and graduated in 2004.
Yeah.
Went to law school, although I don't know where.
Yeah.
And then came back, moved to Butler-Tarkington, where we're sitting, the neighborhood we're sitting in. We'll talk about exactly where we're sitting in just a little bit. In 2008, and now, like we said, works for an insurance company. And as a historian, he runs a website called Class 900 Indy, which is actually just incredible. His most recent blog post is about the pizza history in Indianapolis, which this is a personal love of mine is pizza, and a personal beef I have with Indianapolis in terms of pizza quality. But I guess there's a strong contention and a cohort of people who feel strongly one way or another there. And then also wrote a book that I met some fans of this morning called Vanished Indianapolis, which is about parts of Indianapolis that have quite literally been vanished, changed, altered, whatever term you want to use, and been made into another thing, which also brings me to where we're sitting, which is School 86, just off of Butler's campus, although Butler owns it.
They do own it, yeah. This is part of the Butler campus.
Yeah, and Ed is a massive advocate for preserving this space, so I'm sure we're going to get into that just a little bit. But anyways, Ed, tell me how you're doing. This is a beautiful morning, and also tell me a little bit about yourself, from beyond what I said.
Well, thank you, Michael, and you covered everything quite well, but I'm doing fantastic on this kind of a warm morning here in Butler-Tarkington, but it's a beautiful day. As you said, I born in Boulder, Colorado. My parents were in the Army, so we spent some time at a few bases here and there, and the last one was in Chicago, and then we moved down to Greenwood, and I attended Greenwood schools, graduated in 2000, and then went to IU Bloomington, and then went to law school up in Michigan at Thomas Cooley, and then came back here and got married in 2007, and my wife and I lived initially downtown at 16th or 17th and Central.
Okay.
And but then in late 2007, we were able to purchase a house in this neighborhood because prices weren't nearly as high as they are.
In 2008? Oh, who?
Not nearly as high as they are now. So,
where'd you? This is just. I went to IU Bloomington as well. Where'd you stay?
So the first year, my freshman year, I was at Ashton Moffett.
I don't even know where that is. Oh wait, Ashton Hall, I think is just. Am I?
Well, back in 2007, Ashton was like one of the oldest dorms. It was a bunch of small buildings.
Yes.
Some of them were cinder block, but it was right on 7th Street across from, I think it was Lenny's and Jimmy John's.
Yes.
And that's where I was introduced to Jimmy John's. I ate way too much Jimmy John's that first semester. And then food court at Wright was like a block away, and I ate way too much Sbarro's that first semester too. And let me tell you, I will never touch Sbarro's again. But that was freshman year, and then the next 3 years I lived in a Wilkie dorm.
Oh, really? So you lived dorm life all four?
Well, Wilkie had just been renovated.
Okay.
And it was beautiful, and Yeah, the first year I had a suite with one other guy. We shared a bathroom, and the air conditioner, you could crank that thing down to 60 degrees. It would not blink. It was fantastic, especially after no air conditioning in Ashton. And then I got larger rooms later on, but that's where I met my wife too. She worked at the front desk at Wilkie. So yeah, dorm life the entire time.
I posted yesterday on Instagram that there was a guy who tweeted like, "You'll never meet your wife at the opening week of college," and that's exactly where I met my wife. So like, I thought that was funny.
Well,
that you and I have a similar experience.
We met junior year. She went to Ball State her freshman year, and then she was actually at Wilkie's sophomore year when I was there, and we just never crossed paths. And then she was working the front desk, and at the time I was training for a little 5, and I would come in with my bike, and I'd see her. And
You're a little 500 rider?
I did. I rode in 2002 for my dorm. We
got the dorm team not like cutters or something?
Oh no, heck no. We were not great. We finished I think 30th out of 33, and I was on the first lap. I rode for the first lap, and there was a crash right in the mid pack. And you've seen the Little 5. You know, when there's crashes, there's bodies and bikes flying everywhere.
My wife also rode in Little 500.
Oh really?
Yeah,
Fantastic.
Shout out to Anna Darling.
What team?
She rode for her sorority, which is Alpha Sigma Alpha.
Nice.
And she was also involved in a crash at one point.
I couldn't avoid it. It was just right in front of me, and I went flying over the top. But yeah, I only rode 1 year, and then the next year I was diagnosed with some heart issues. So I was more like the team organizer and coach. Okay. So
Cool. Love Little 500, and I'm more connected to Little 500 than I am the Indy 500 in every way. So that's.
Well, the women's race is far more exciting than the men's race for anybody who hasn't gone. At least that's my opinion. It's only 100 laps, a lot more. If you make a mistake, it impacts the race a lot more, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think I've only watched the women's race. I don't know. It's not that important. Anyways, I am really, so one of the main reasons I reached out to you, first of all, I'm just like really interested in Indianapolis history. Sure. As someone who just moved here, and there's clearly so much history. I learned from your blog actually that Indianapolis was made the capital. Well, it was founded in 1820 and it was made the capital in 1825. Yep. The only reason I can remember this is because I literally read it last night, which means Indianapolis is now at year 200 of being the capital of Indiana.
Yep, this year,
Yep,
200.
We're like older than the United States, is that?
No.
How does that work?
No.
1776?
No.
Oh, wait.
1776.
I'm bad at math. United States 250 years old, not 200 years. What am I saying? But
we're not quite that old.
The reason I'm so interested in Indianapolis history, just history in general, and more so now that I'm older, is because I feel like we can learn we can try. I don't know that we actively do so. Learn so many lessons from our mistakes in the past. And we're also sitting at a spot that I think is, I'm interested in why it's important to you, but also just sort of the wider conversation around Indianapolis history, why you're interested in things like that. But let's start with School 86. Okay, I keep getting this mixed up. I shouldn't have even brought it into the conversation, but my grandmother attended School 84.
Right over here, right?
In middle school.
Yep.
So that's why I keep getting these two mixed up. They're like both in my head. But School 86, Butler, you're going to correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, Butler is attempting to level it and then build something on top.
Well, not attempting. It's kind of, so this school was originally, it was, built back in the late 30s into early 40s and then added on again in the 50s. Butler came into possession back in the late 1990s when IPS closed the school. Mm-hmm. And for the next 20 some years, it was international school. Okay. Their like primary grades were here. But then I think it was 2022 is when international school left. And Butler has held on to it, and they've been exploring options. My concern was that they would be just demolished, and Butler's never said they were going to demolish it. They're just exploring options. So I wanted to get out ahead of things and try to, get a movement started to preserve or adaptively reuse the building, to encourage Butler to do that.
Yeah. So this is the angle I always hit it from. It always sounds I think it sounds harsh when I say it, but I don't think of it this way. I am not a sentimental person. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, which, my wife would probably argue I'm sentimental about very specific things. So maybe I'm just selective, and maybe we all are. But Why do you think that like preserving this school specifically, or just places, historical places, is important?
Yeah, well, so the sentimentality thing, I've never thought of myself as being terribly sentimental either. It's just I think as certain things pop up in our lives, all of a sudden the sentimentality will hit us. And like I said, I grew up in Greenwood, the old Greenwood Middle School that got demolished a couple years ago, and I was never really terribly connected. Was there for 3 years, yeah, great school, etc. And then I happened to be driving through town, going down to visit my family down that south side, and I drove past, and the school was gone. And I was like, oh, I had this moment of sentimentality where it just kind of hit me. So I feel like it's one of those things that when you're faced with something, that kind of draws those feelings out. And for School 86, I mean, I've lived here for 18 years. There's folks in this neighborhood, within a stone's throw where we're sitting, who have attended this school, and it's not really, architecturally, it's not, anything dramatic. It's a large brick building. It's got some nice features. But the main thing that I wanted to preserve it for was it's kind of the character it brings to the neighborhood. It's an older brick building in a neighborhood of older houses right across the street from Hinkle, which is, constructed back in 1928. I think it adds and provides a nice character to the neighborhood, kind of an older structure like this. But also, it kind of has this history with the neighborhood that Butler-Tarkington has kind of a interesting history involving integration and racial diversity. Back in the 1950s into the 1960s, Butler-Tarkington Neighborhood Association was formed to facilitate the kind of peaceful integration of the neighborhood and to encourage diversity.
Would you say they succeeded?
I'd say it's an ongoing process. Okay. I'd say, and we can talk about that, how much they succeeded. I think it was a very noble goal, and it certainly did a lot of good, especially back in the 50s and 60s. The overall integration is not as great as I think some folks would have expected back then. Mm-hmm. But the school was kind of evidence of that diversity, because it was naturally integrated with white and black students from the neighborhood. And back in the 1970s, when there was federal litigation going on about the integration of the IPS, of Indianapolis Public Schools, the federal judge who was hearing the case called out School 86 specifically, noting that there's a formula you had to go through, a certain percentage of integration for each schools, that this school was the only school in the IPS system that was already at that federally mandated percentage. It was already naturally integrated and diverse because of the nature of the neighborhood. Yeah. And that was part of, I kind of saw that as the result of the integration efforts of BTNA and just a natural integration of the neighborhood. So it's kind of a symbol of those efforts from the middle of last century moving forward to today.
That is a
long-winded answer, but that's
that is an excellent summary in a way that it sort of helps me understand why you were so passionate about this school specifically. Also, it sort of grounds the conversation in a way that I think is helpful, as opposed to just saying like, I just like it.
Yeah. I mean? Oh, yeah. No, there's got to be. I mean, I like the building. I think it should be. Plus, I will also note that it was constructed by the William P. Juncloss Company. And if you've read my blog, I've done a lot of writing about the William P. Juncloss Company, now known as Juncloss Campbell. But they have been operating in the city for 175 years, one of the longest operating companies in city history, still operating. Yeah. And the 7th generation owner actually lives 2 doors down from me. Oh. The family still operates the company, and his family constructed this building. So there's also that kind of additional neighborhood tie.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So beyond School 86, mm-hmm. 86. Why in Indianapolis? Like, actually, just from this angle, like, why are you, as someone who studied law, and I guess these sort of go hand in hand oftentimes, but why are you so interested in Indianapolis history?
Well, I was a history major at IU. My parents were both history majors. Mm-hmm. They were both lawyers too, but back in the 90s, we didn't have a huge amount of money, mm-hmm. and they weren't working for big firms, things like that. Uh-huh. We would go camping a lot, and whenever we went camping, we would go to historic sites, like the number of Civil War sites you went to, state parks close to historic sites, and that was those were our vacations. Mm-hmm. And
You sound like my wife, actually. That's I feel like that's what happens for her as a child.
I think it happens a lot. I think maybe it's an I'm sure it's a Midwest thing, maybe, but state parks, things like that, and that kind of grew my interest in history. And I'd always been interested in history, and being in Indianapolis, I started writing some historical articles for our neighborhood newsletter that my wife was she was the designer and publishing it.
The Butler-Tarkington?
Yeah, the neighborhood newsletter. And I started writing some historical articles about the neighborhood, and there was a really good response, and I kind of was like, okay, let's dig into this a little bit more. And part of the whole interest in history is the canal, which runs right over here. I'd always found that very fascinating. Once I started digging into that, the history behind that kind of really hooked me into the history of Indianapolis too. So.
Just a side note, I took a couple of history classes in college. One of them totally changed my worldview, which was you'll think this is funny, American intervention in Central and Southern America. That totally changed my worldview. But also,
oh boy, that's got to be a survey class. There's got to be a couple class. Was it one or was there multiple?
This was one class, but it totally that is I reference that class as having been a radicalizing moment in my life, being oh, actually, this is kind of messed up.
I took some classes. Well, actually, I took a Nazism in Europe class, which really it hit hard. That class hit hard. And then I took a lot of Russian history classes too. A professor named Ben Ekloff, who I took several classes from. He's unfortunately passed away now, but the first class I took was kind of a survey course on War and Peace, the Tolstoy novel. And it was that thing's a behemoth. Yes. But he knew, it was such an interesting class, and I took several follow-ups about, Imperial Russia and Soviet Russia, and it was just such a fascinating area of history.
The other class I remember taking as a freshman is one of those entry-level history classes. I only remember the professor said the very first day of class, he said, "You are only going to remember one thing from this class," and it's very true because this is all I remember. I don't remember the context. I don't remember.
Oh boy.
I don't remember any of this. But he said the only thing you're going to remember is the words bird shit and railroads. And I cannot, for the life of me, tell you why. It had something to do with American history, building railroads all across the world. And then there's this island, I want to say in
Guano? Was it or was it the out in the Pacific?
I think so. It was it's like an island that isn't made of entirely bird shit.
Yeah, no. Okay, we may be going off the rails here. Indianapolis history, we're taking an exit here.
Total pivot. Yeah, but this is just on the topic of history. This is the only thing I remember from this class is the words bird shit and railroads, and I just think it's so.
Because there was a whole industry about. I think it was might have been actually. I think it's guano or something that they would harvest that or gather it for.
This is exactly
I can't remember what they use it for though, but.
It must have been nitrogen or something for something fertilizer or something.
But it was out in the Pacific, so, oh boy. I feel like we need to dig into that a little bit more, find out what that class was. I also took a bass fishing class at IU, which was terribly disappointing.
But
it's not history related. I do fish, but
not good at it, or supposedly.
Hey, when I tell my wife, I catch a few, but what I tell my wife is when she asks me how I did, I'm like, hey, it was a nice day out on the river. Anytime you can be out on the White River, wading around fishing, and even if you don't catch anything, it's a beautiful morning. So
you're much more patient. Maybe I'll get there someday, but I can't stand sitting still. Although this is my main form of sitting still, so maybe I'm lying. Maybe I just got to do it with someone.
Sitting still right here?
No, just in general with sitting and podcasting. All right, so this sort of idea of Indianapolis history. Now, I'm actually interested because you talk about Butler and Butler-Tarkington with a sort of reverence, and I think it's interesting that it has this, at least from your angle, perceived history of integration when you compare it especially to IU, well, it used to be Ooey Pooey, IU, Purdue, Indianapolis, which is no longer, they had a divorce. Yeah. But when you compare it to them, which is built on a historically black neighborhood, this it has sort of this stained legacy, and I'm sure they've called themselves out on that or whatever. But when you compare Butler's history in that way to IUPUI, I wonder what you're sort of thinking about, because this area of town is your main focus, right?
Well, It's kind of my main focus because I do so much stuff for the newsletter. So I have a particular area on the website. I try to branch out, but it is heavily in kind of this area just because I write articles for the newsletter.
Okay, that makes sense. So like, do you have any opinion about like, oh, I don't even know what the question is.
No, I think I see where you're going.
Yeah.
Well, kind of a compare and contrast to, IU Indy or the IUPUI campus, kind of coming in and taking and bulldozing over a historically black neighborhood versus what we see here. Now, I think it's really two very different situations, because when I talk about the integration of the neighborhood, Butler-Tarkington, the area, Butler-Tarkington name wasn't given until the 1950s. Before that, it was...
Well, Butler-Tarkington's probably named after Butler, the school.
That didn't arrive until 1928. They didn't move to this site. But even like in the 19-teens and early 1920s, there were already black families buying houses and living in this neighborhood, mostly south of 42nd Street because the rest of the neighborhood wasn't developed yet. So when we talk about integration, we're talking about like in the the 40s, 50s, 60s, when there was redlining in place, and the redlining neighborhood kind of ran along 42nd and 43rd Street. That was kind of the barrier that prevented.
You can still very much see that today.
Exactly, and you can still see it today. The impacts are still here. But with Butler, there was no neighborhood where Butler was. That was called Fairview Park. It was an amusement park that had been started back in 1890 by the streetcar company. As they had a line, the first electric line in Indianapolis came up to this park from downtown.
I think I've heard of that. Maybe through you, actually.
A chapter in the book actually talks about it. One of my favorite chapter in the book was Fairview Park. So Butler, when they started the campus, there was really nothing much out here. There were some neighborhoods some houses were being platted on the south end of the neighborhood, but really up in around there, that was just a amusement park. So it's kind of a different situation than what you ran to at IU Indianapolis, where you're already taking a very dense area of the city and saying we're going to drop a university here. So
I am really interested in transit.
yeah,
This is like my favorite topic.
all right, I love transit.
And you have written multiple articles about the history of trains in Indianapolis, the history of streetcars in Indianapolis, and just this sort of historical mode of transportation that has been almost entirely wiped away. What is your sort of, I guess, thoughts about, not necessarily why, I think the why is well spoken for because we have moved to a more independent mode of transportation, which is cars, which we hopefully are not hearing in the recording.
It's a busy intersection.
But more so, why you find that history so interesting and appealing, maybe what sort of lessons you feel like we can learn from that historical sort of existence that we lived, and sort of what do you think for the future?
Well, so why I find it interesting is the railroads and the streetcars, especially it's what really helped, particularly the railroads, the steam railroads, is what really helped build the city and launch the city into its into a kind of a higher level. Which our first railroad came in the late 1840s, the Madison Indianapolis Railroad, and after that it was just off to the races. Industry came, more people moved into the area. We became, Indiana likes to say, crossroads of America, and Indianapolis really became a major hub. So just how those railroads influenced the growth of the city. On the steam side, the transit side, the public transit, the streetcars and the interurbans, it's just, to me, it's, again, that the streetcars helped expand the city as well. The trains brought in industry and material and people, but then the streetcars got those people from their homes to the industry and things like that, kind of that more street level view. And then the interurbans, which, today, I talk to people. I gave a talk, where was it, a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about the interurbans, and some people aren't aware of those, and they're just flabbergasted.
When you say interurban, I loosely understand what this means, but I don't think the vast majority of people would even.
Well, and that's a good point. So an interurban was basically a kind of a streetcar on steroids that went in between cities. It used the streetcar tracks inside cities, but then it would go from, for example, Indianapolis was a major hub. You could travel from Indianapolis to Lebanon to Lafayette. You could go.
Do you have an idea of the speed of this? Just people would know.
Inside the city, when they use the streetcar tracks, they would usually stay fairly slow, about
Yeah.
the same speed as a streetcar, 20, 25, 30 miles an hour, somewhere around there. But once they got outside city limits, they really cranked it up because they were electric powered, and they could hit 50, 60 miles per hour. And I even seen some references to 70. I'm not sure how often they did that, but they would have regular cars leaving from downtown, from the traction terminal on Market Street right by the State House, and you could travel all over the state, cities here and there. And it was such an amazing system, and people just don't realize that we used to have such a, integrated and, complicated, I don't want to say complicated, but very expansive system that connected Indianapolis with the rest of the state. And then it all went away.
Yeah, and you can sort of even see the remnants. Like, I live over in Wharfley / Broad Ripple, and Bricks, which is stands for the Broad Ripple Ice Cream Company, looks just like a train station. I think it historically probably was. There's actually pictures inside, and like the Monon obviously was a train line. So just like if you close your eyes or even keep your eyes open and just imagine that the path was a railroad tracks or whatever tracks instead of a paved path, you can just like see how incredible that may have been, to be able to just move around the city in that way. And obviously we had the bus line, but the bus line has to stop and pause in certain spaces, whereas this would have been like constant movement.
And Broad Ripple is like, when you're talking about like streetcars, you still see the rails pop up all over the place. I did some stuff on social media about that a couple weeks ago, but Broad Ripple still has some interurban history. Right across from the Jiffy Lube on College, right next to where they're building the new fire station, there's a brick building. It's a VFW, or American Legion, one of the two.
Yes.
That's an old. That's the interurban power station. It's a substation for the. I can't remember which line it was. I did a blog post about this, but the line ran up parallel College, and if you are in Murat Park, have you ever been? You know where Murat Park is?
I've not been there, but I know where it is.
So right along College, there's a little cut. There's a ditch next to College on the east side of College, and that was the cut for the interurban line going northward. That's where the rails used to be laid.
That's so neat.
So there's still evidence of that, and that's why I like it. You can find these pieces of the past associated with the interurbans and remind people of what the state used to have when you had this fairly high-speed train system connecting cities all around the state.
Well, is this something, I think the political will is not there, but is this something you would personally like to see?
Trains? Like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah, no. My wife and I used to take the Hoosier line up to Chicago, and it took a while. You had to, sorry, there's a big bus.
Yeah, that's cool.
Taking the Hoosier line to Chicago did take a while. You had to give right away to freight trains, things like that. But it was such a cool way to go. And you can still take the Cardinal line up there. It's just not as frequent. But if we had like a high-speed train between Chicago and Indianapolis, oh, that would be amazing.
Yeah. When we go to Chicago, which has actually been a couple times recently, I've only gone once, but my wife's gone a couple. Is we drive to the Gary area, and take the South Shore line in instead of driving all the way in, because it's such a pain to deal with parking and all that. But if you ever go to Chicago, you should do this. Like, go to Gary or the surrounding area, the dunes, whatever. The parking is free, which is important. And then it's like $7 to take the South Shore Line train in. It takes just about as long as driving in, and you don't have to worry about parking, and your car is safe. Like, a lot of those are near like police stations or whatever. If you, I wouldn't worry about leaving your stuff there.
Takes you right to Randolph Street Station, which is
right
downtown.
Millennium Park.
Yeah.
Basically. So, which is exactly where you often want to be. So, and then obviously that connects to the rest of the city.
Yeah, South Shore Line's fantastic. We took it one time from South Bend. My grandparents were still living there, but yeah, something like that. That's amazing. It's just like, what was it? 20 some years ago, there was discussion about a light rail from Noblesville, Fishers down through Indianapolis, paralleling like the Monon route into downtown, and it got shot down, and now we're not. I think state passed a law, if I remember correctly, saying that we can't.
The state did do that.
Yeah, but now you see the growth up on that side of the city, and if you had a fast light rail line coming down from Noblesville, I think it would get a lot of traction. But
everyone I talk to, and we'll jump we'll talk about pizza in a moment, but everyone I talk to, I'm like, would you ride the bus if it were like more efficient? I ride the bus all the time, but like if it were more efficient, it came regularly, all of these things? And the answer is universally yes. And I imagine the answer would be same if I lived in Noblesville and the train was regular and efficient and not super expensive. Like the answer, of course, would be yes, because people are so tired of driving.
Well, I mean, I take the bus every day. I take the 28 bus down to the transit center. They changed it up. I used to get up, my stop used to be right by the State House.
You work in where do you work?
So I don't work in the government center. I work on the south side of Washington Street across from the government center. And it's this old building called the Fair Building. It was a department store back in the day. But the department's been there for a very, very long time. But I used to hop off at the stop at Ohio and Capitol, short walk. They changed the routes. Now I'm over at the transit center, but I get my steps in walking over, so it works out. But yeah, I mean, it's I occasionally when I do have to drive downtown, I'm just like, I don't want to say I get frustrated, but it's like, man, I could be on the bus taking a nap right now on my way home.
Literally.
Because I do fall asleep. I have a knack ever since college. As soon as I hop on the bus, I'll fall asleep and I'll wake up right before my stop. It's just this weird skill, I guess.
All right, I'm really excited about this. I love pizza. I actually ate pizza last night. My stomach hurt this morning.
From where?
Goodfellas. That's like it's a chain, but we were at so they have at the one downtown on Mass Ave in the back. They call it a speakeasy. I hate that they call it a speakeasy. It's just a bar. Yeah. It is not a speakeasy. A speakeasy, no one knows about, or it's exclusive. It's just a bar. I refuse to call it as such. Okay. But great space, first of all, especially when there's a pizza shop in the front and you can just go get pizza and have a drink. It's very nice. And actually, I think, unfortunately, I don't know what you think, but their pizza as a chain is unfortunately like some of the best in the city, I think.
Well, I will say, I'm not making any judgments on pizza because honestly, I'm not. I will eat whatever pizza's put in front of me.
I'm the same. I'm not even like, I'm not that picky.
I love Goodfellas. I'm on board with that.
Also, I had Fujawa for the first time recently, which is like, you're anti-Detroit pizza?
No, I like it. See, that's the thing. I'm not anti any kind of pizza. You put a piece of pizza in front, except for Sbarro, as we mentioned earlier. I'm not, after that freshman's first semester at IU, I'm not touching Sbarro ever again unless it's the last thing open at an airport concourse.
And actually, this is a funny coincidence. Today, unfortunately this is coming out in like 3 weeks, but today they're having Pizza Fest downtown. Yep. And we are not going because the tickets were like $45, but I think it's funny that they're having this celebration of the pizza culture here in Indianapolis, whatever that means.
I like to see events downtown, and that's why I did do the blog post about pizza, because I knew that event.
Oh, you're getting your SEO in?
Trying to get the SEO in, yeah.
So you wrote this blog post about pizza history in Indianapolis, which I found, first of all, I was drawn in just because I like pizza, but I was immediately fascinated by how old this history goes back.
Yep.
You found some interesting tidbits, not only about history, but the alternative names that they call pizza, things like that. And also it incorporated some mafia stuff, I guess. So I just would love you to give like a quick summary of this, and then maybe we'll talk about it a little bit more. But I found it like really, really interesting.
Yeah, well, I started thinking about like, okay, I was having pizza, Iariz with my wife, and we're talking about when was the first pizza actually, commercially provided or made in Indianapolis and sold. Not somebody's kitchen, not somebody's home kitchen. I started digging into it, and we've got a couple of longer standing Italian restaurants, at least for Indianapolis, that go back into like the 19-teens, 1920s, 30s. So I kind of started with them to explore like when they started selling and beyond that. And it was kind of a rabbit hole. But the thing was, you may have seen it, I put a little caveat. It's like, I may update this. More information may come to me. Because there's really, a lot of it was based on newspapers and city directories, which are kind of limited. I reached out to a couple of the longer running Italian restaurants to see if I couldn't get copies of old menus. And at press time, I'd not heard back from them. So if I do eventually hear back, if they have any information, I'm going to supplement that blog post. Mm-hmm.
That's so interesting. So what was the name of I'm not trying to call anyone out here, but what was the name of the family that had the mafia ties that like killed a dude?
Well, I don't know if it was mafia-tized.
Oh, that's what it kind
Yeah.
of read like.
That was Iozzo's Garden of Italy. It was originally located. They had a series of grocery stores, and then the family they had opened up a restaurant in North Illinois, right about where Giordano's is. No, I'm sorry, north of Market Street.
Yeah.
Right where there's I think the Luca Pizza's up there.
We haven't gone there, but I know of it.
Yeah. And then they relocated to South Illinois, where basically the Weston, the PNC Center is now. But they were very popular. It was not only was it an Italian restaurant, but they also had entertainment, bands, and things like that. But also there were a lot of references to gunplay. There were a lot of fights, it seemed like, and the owner was oftentimes he exchange gunfire, and I just imagine a fight breaking out. He reaches under the counter, pulls out the shotgun. And,
Oh, like the classic,
yeah,
get out of here, bucket.
exactly. And one time, people left and they came back and they shot up the place from the car. So there was a lot of newspaper articles about that. But then in in the late 40s, I don't remember the date exactly. There was a fight that resulted in a minor. He was actually in there with some friends getting shot by the owner during the scuffle, and that resulted in a trial. And the business lost its alcohol license, which is can be fatal to businesses.
Yeah.
And he was actually sentenced to prison, and they shut down. And then Iozzo's reopened. I think it was like 2009 on South Meridian Street, right near just south of Shapiro's. Delicious restaurant. Great, really great place to go. Does not have pizza on the menu right now, though. But they did have pizza in the, they did advertise pizza. Or actually, no, they did not, because they shut down. Actually, I'm gonna have to go back and look at my own blog post. I can't remember if they advertised pizza before they shut down. See, that's the problem. I write the blog post, so I don't have to remember everything.
Yeah. I just remember talking with my, what do you call them? My in-laws, my parent-in-laws, I don't know what the word is.
Wife's parents?
Wife's parents.
In-laws. Yeah, in-laws.
In-laws. Just about their younger days with living in just the pizza habits that they would have, and they mentioned a couple of different places that just don't exist anymore. There was I think it was called Pickles or something.
I have heard Pickles before.
Pickle Jacks or something like that. But then these places that are still around, is it Giordano's, or what's the place with the really flat pizza where they slice it into tiny squares?
Oh, Pizza King. Pizza King?
Well, Pizza King's one. There's another one. It's it's got a family name or something.
Let's see.
But it's a big chain. They're around Lafayette and South Bend and all that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Barnaby's is one. Barnaby's I don't think is a chain, but that's up in South Bend. That was a staple when I was visiting my grandparents there.
But it's so funny to think about the evolution of this it feels American. The Italians claim it. The Italians did not invent pizza. I think it's a Greek invention. I don't know.
Well, and it was difficult because, you're looking around, and there were some references in the 40s to Italian tomato pie.
Yeah,
and that is, and then there were also references to pizzas being made on English muffins, and recipes were carried in the local newspapers.
Like a little bagel, like a bagel bite type thing.
Yeah, almost. Yeah. In fact, I think Robert Bodelli has a bagel sandwich that's kind of morning mess. I think it's called. It's kind of a pizza on a bagel. But so I was looking at that, and finally, the earliest one I found, at least advertising, was 1947, I believe, and it was called McCurry's Italian Village, located on Meridian Street, right across from where
the first reference to pizza.
Pizza being sold.
Yes.
And it was right across the street from where Lincoln Square Pancake House is now. The building's gone. But then after that, advertising started everywhere. I think Iozzo's did advertise for a bit before they were shut down. Milano Inn, if folks, that shut down several years ago, but they advertised it, and then references started popping up all over the place in the 1950s. So
yeah, when those advertisements started, I kind of asked this to you on Twitter or whatever, kind of. But when ads started popping up, is that hand in hand with delivery pizza, or is that a little later?
I think that was a little bit later, but I think we were discussing that online, that would be a really interesting thing to explore. When was the first delivery pizza, and food delivery in general, because that post was very popular. Food history apparently is quite popular. And I'm not a connoisseur, like I said, you put a pizza in front of me, I'm going to eat it.
I told you, when you do field research, I'll be there. You got to hit me up.
Hey, if there's field research that results in me eating eating food for the purpose of history, I'm good with that.
When you do this type of research, just any research, what do you like? What sources? What type of stuff are you hitting up to gather information?
Yeah, all over the place. There's some fantastic resources here in the city, and a few years ago I got a master's in library science and with a focus on,
right on.
archives. And I have that really gave me a newfound respect for what archivists do and what local historians do in processing these collections. But the main places I go to: Historical Society, State Library, Indianapolis Public Library, State Archives, and IU University Library. All those not only in person, you can visit and look at sources. Oftentimes make some, if it's in the archives, you might have to make arrangements, but you can go in and look at things, or their digital collections, which are constantly expanding, are fantastic.
It's so interesting to think about how much information exists, but is not known.
Yeah.
That's like, it's funny to just think about that in this moment, like thinking about IU Bloomington and how insanely large the library is, and all of these different places that hold information that is just there
And
to be discovered again.
Excellent way of putting it, to be discovered and make it available. And I've made this reference before, but in regards to the State Library, when the new building was constructed, one of the members of the building commission commented how, the State Library was like Indiana's bulwark of civilization. And I love that phrase for libraries, just in general, bulwarks of civilization, because not only do they retain this history, our shared history, the good and the bad, because you've got to take, history is good, history is bad, you've got to take it all, but it makes it available, it makes that knowledge available to everybody. It's not, it doesn't matter what, social class you come from, what race you are, it's all available. And it's what really helps, the civilization, our civilization, kind of the foundation of that to, and that phrase, I wish I could get that on t-shirts. It's just so appropriate for libraries, especially in this day and age.
Hit up IPL, so maybe you can do a collab or something.
Actually, I should just make one myself.
That's true too.
My wife's a graphic designer. Might as well have her put something together. But yeah, especially in this day and age, libraries with funding issues, libraries and archives are incredibly important, and they are, I think, our bulwarks of civilization.
I do want to give a quick shout out, because I thought this was an interesting tidbit. The name of your website, which is Class 900 Indy, is the reason that name exists is because, speaking of library science, 900 is the Dewey Decimal number for just history in general. So the reason you named your website that. I was actually thinking about this. It's very similar, just like Third Space Indy is just like, oh, this is just what it is.
I was trying to be cute. I was trying to be cute, and I have to, anytime I give a talk anywhere, I have to kind of explain what that means.
Well, when I first because I knew about the School 86 thing before I saw your website, I was like, oh, is Class 900 like the last class at School 86 or whatever? But obviously that's not true.
Well, how did you hear about School 86? Like, where did you hear about that?
Oh, my wife. Shout out to Anna Darling. She's another one of your fans. We love seeing your posts on Twitter about just random history stuff. I think you were posting about it, or maybe they did a news story recently or something. She works for Fox 59.
Oh shoot, yeah. I've done some stuff with Fox 59, yeah.
So I think through that, she was like, "Hey, check out this guy. He's kind of cool." And I said, "Yeah, he's kind of cool."
Well, high school me would have been shocked by being called cool, but I appreciate it nowadays. So.
But again, like that compliment that lady gave me, like, the mundane is so exciting if you really hype yourself up, because what you're doing is so interesting.
And it's telling the stories about Indianapolis, because some of them are rather mundane. If you can make them kind of interesting and get people like, oh, I never knew that, or I walked past this building, or I walked past this area of the city, I've driven through this area of the city, had no idea. And especially with our neighborhood, there's constantly changes. There's a lot of younger families moving in, older generations passing on. There's people who aren't familiar with the history of the neighborhood, and that's what I'm hoping to do, is kind of let them know about that history, about especially the integration period, the civil rights era in the neighborhood, and how that should, how that's going forward, how we're still, tackling those issues.
Definitely.
So,
is there any? Sorry, I hope this thing doesn't die. That would be unfortunate. The battery's getting low. I should have changed it. Oh well. I was just shouting to yours.
Yeah, we can share. We can pass it back and forth.
Is there, just as sort of like to round out the history stuff, like is there any like cool stuff you're looking into right now? Stuff you want to talk about just off the rip right here? I don't know.
I'm trying to do stuff for. I got my own podcast, which has dozens of listens. Yeah. It's called Yesterday's Indianapolis. So I'm trying to find some more content for that. I am going to be expanding into doing some interviews with local historians, things like that. And then I may have I've been talking to a publisher about possibly a second book. I can't really say more than that right now because it's kind of still up in the air, but I'm hoping to have something final on that in the next few weeks. Otherwise, I'm just working on blog posts. I'm going to have a blog post hopefully later this next week about a statue down in Garfield Park that I always was curious about.
Oh, that's so funny.
And I'm trying to do more South Side stuff too, because as you noted, I do a lot with Butler-Tarkington. I'm trying to expand, especially since I grew up in Greenwood, I want to do some more South Side stuff.
I have been speaking to, as if I'm like some authority, but I've been speaking to people on the South Side, and they, at least the ones I've talked to, feel that they have been
Neglected?
Neglected is a great word. I'm trying to expand my offerings to hit up the South Side. I'm soon doing that.
I spent a Saturday a couple of weeks ago driving around on the near South Side and the far South Side, taking pictures for various future blog posts that, nothing in the next couple of weeks, is more like 2 or 3 months down the line. But I do want to do, like areas like Fountain Square have been hit pretty heavily on the history front by other folks. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trying to do some other stuff beyond that. Yeah. So try to expand the horizons of the blog. More canal stuff though. There's always going to be more canal stuff because man, I just love that damn canal.
That's so funny. I've never seen, the battery icon is empty. I've never seen that before. But it's still chugging.
Well, we could pass this back and forth.
So I was talking to my mom this morning, and
it's always good. Call your mother.
Yeah, call your mother. And she's one of the very few people, including my wife and one other person that I know has listened to every episode. And so I've asked for feedback, and one of the things I have been struggling with is this concept, or at least I like the idea of education. Mm-hmm. And she actually gave a great suggestion this morning, which is I should ask everybody, what do you think a third space is? Like, what is a third space to you? Do you know what a third space is?
Let's see. I think I remember you saying something when I first started listening to your podcast. Wasn't it like work, home, and then something else?
Yeah.
Something like that? Something.
I'm happy to explain it again.
Why don't you explain it again? Because I've been struggling with that.
That's perfect.
I was thinking about that last night.
A great opportunity. I'm so thankful that you don't know, or you don't feel
confident. Yeah. No, fire away.
So, a third space. So there's a guy who wrote a book. His name is Ray Oldenburg. He's a sociologist. I believe it was 1989. He published a book called The Great Good Place. In this book, he makes a definition of a third place. I say space, but that's semantics. So the concept of a third place is that you have 3 places. The first one is your home. This is where you rest, where you recuperate yourself, where you live. The second place is your work. This is where you do labor, where you generate money, where you work. And the third place is basically anywhere outside of those 2 places. It is important and vital that it is outside of your home and your work, because of those offer their own functions. Any place outside of those 2 places that you go, build community, you exist, and you belong, and the primary activity in those places is conversation.
Okay. That helps out a lot.
Yes. I've been working on the explanation of this just because I think it's really important for this conversation. So based on that, where do you think, for yourself, but also just maybe in general, like in Indianapolis, like what is a good, maybe even historically, I would love that. Like where are these places that you think offer this sort of third space, third place?
No, that explanation helps a lot, because I was debating. I was like, could history be a third, like a kind of a? It's not
an
a physical,
amorphous.
Excellent, perfect term. I was struggling to find a term for that, and I don't really think that applies, because that is kind of my history, but I also, that's kind of in my home at the same time, because that's where I do a lot of my work. I think my third space, I'm going to say my neighborhood. I'm active in the neighborhood association. I do a lot of community, I work the polls. I go to litter cleanups. I go to our neighborhood association meetings, things like that. I walk around the neighborhood. I'd like to chat with people. I think that that's really kind of the.
Are you a neighborhood man? Like, do you? I don't know what I mean by this, but do you like walk up to your like? You seem to know a lot of people, so like if you see them out, you like walk up.
Oh yeah, no, I'll stop by and chat, and I'll wave at people, and if somebody somebody will honk their horns, they drive by, which has not happened today, but we're still here, so it might happen yet.
We're waiting for the police to shoo us off.
I think I don't think they're going to be too busy today, but next week when student move-in starts, and the week after that. But so yeah, I think I would say my neighborhood, and then like another space, kind of greater Indianapolis. I'm going to say it's more outdoors. You've probably seen, I like waterways. I just like moving water. I like nature. I like being out on the river. I like being by the canal. I like taking pictures along the canal. It's just, especially going through Butler, on the side of Butler's campus, it's peaceful. Being out on the river, there's sections of the river through the north side, which, whether I'm fishing or taking pictures, I can just stand there, and sometimes you can the sound of traffic in the background almost goes away, and you realize you're in the middle of like 14th or 13th largest city in the country, excuse me, and here you are standing on this beautiful river as the sun's setting, and it's just it's a lovely feeling. So I'm going to say the outdoors, kind of the waterways of Indianapolis.
Yeah, I think Indianapolis has great hidden green spaces. I'm going to say hidden because they're kind of annoying to access, because most of the time you have to drive your car.
Oh yeah.
But there are, even just here at Butler, like just the nice green space that exists here is very.
And we do have a nice bike system. I was doing a lot of bicycle advocacy with IndyCog, which became Bike Indianapolis, and then now they've merged with SEBA. But it was a bicycle advocacy group, and I was doing a lot of work with them back in the early 2010s. And I was also racing mountain bikes at the time, and I was doing a lot of riding. But from here in Butler-Tarkington, you can hit the Monon, ride down, hit Fall Creek, ride out to Fort Bend, ride the mountain bike trails, come back again, all on trail, and it's you ride through beautiful park areas. It's fantastic. But if you're talking about like hidden green spaces, go to my blog and look up Woolen Gardens, Woollen. It's a city park, but very difficult to access. You can either access it by going through an apartment complex or fording Fall Creek. And I forded Fall Creek to get there, but it's a nature area and it's purposely not been developed, but it's a beautiful, beautiful area. And if you can get in, and especially during the fall, magnificent space to visit.
You have learned a secret here on Third Space Indy. I didn't know this. So you have to listen in to learn. Okay, so one last sort of angle. Is there a historical place, you wrote vanished Indianapolis, is there a place that you know of that has vanished that used to be a gathering space for people?
It's vanished. It used to be a gathering space.
Even outside
people.
I would say School 86 would have been a third place.
Yeah,
for children, that's a place of work, but that's a different conversation.
No, actually, School 86. Any school is going to be that way. I'm trying to think here.
That's a hard question.
I would say, and this might be low-hanging fruit, but especially since we're sitting here literally staring at Butler right now. But Fairview Park was definitely a gathering spot.
Yeah, I think Louisville has a place like that, because it was like a fairground almost.
Yeah,
like there's rides and stuff.
There were rides in the early years, but then they definitely, there was like a merry-go-round, and then there was a very limited roller coaster that used the hills, and that eventually went away. But you could get boats on the canal. It was more of a natural experience, but at the time it was far out of the city to allow people to travel up here to get a breath of fresh air, and it was absolutely a gathering spot. There were concerts, and you had the train, the streetcars going back and forth. And Butler still is a gathering place today, but it's a different type. But I think if you look at any sort of parkland, natural space like that, at one point there's a lot of examples of those. And if we had another couple hours, I could certainly tell you about them. But I don't think we have that kind of time.
Yeah, Anna is like, you should get Ed as a recurring guest because he's like, there's so many. Indianapolis is so big. Also, no offense, there are other historians to talk to.
Oh no, there absolutely are, and that's why there's certain areas of the city, like certain historical topics, that I don't really dive into, because there's other historians doing a lot of great work.
Yeah,
and I don't want to step on their toes, because they're doing more work than I am on an area. that's their thing. Let them.
Yeah.
I want them to and encourage them to do that.
I have a story. I've not told this on the podcast. I wrote it in the blog for the episode that came out last week. But I met, so through the podcast, my third guest, his name is Khalid Khalifi. I think you've probably listened at least that far. And Khalid is Tunisian in descent, so he's of Arab descent. So he's related to the American Arab community here. And he's drawn me in as well. I'm half Lebanese.
Okay.
And one day he invited me to lunch. And through that, I eventually met a guy named Dr. Edward Curtis.
Yep.
Do you know him?
I do.
Oh, okay. That's cool. So Dr. Edward Curtis is a professor of Black, Muslim, and Arab American history at IU Indianapolis. Very kind guy.
Great book.
Just amazing. I have his book in my backpack.
It's a good one.
Let me tell you why I have his book in my backpack. I walked into this man's house. I introduced myself. I said, hello, my name is...
Did he know you were coming?
Yeah.
Okay.
He didn't know specifically I was coming. He knew Khalid. He invited Khalid.
First question, who are you and what are you doing here?
That's a great question, actually. Just walked into this man's house. I said, hello, my name is Michael Zarek. And he looks at me and he goes, Michael Zarek, like the Zareks? And I said, what? And he walks over to his shelf, grabs his book that he wrote, Arab Indianapolis. He hands it to me, turns the page, whatever. First words says, Ann Kirker Zarek was blank, like a massive leader in the Arab American women's history of Indianapolis.
Really?
So my great grandmother, and then a few pages later it says, Wahib Salim Zarek, blah 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 blah, like was a massive figure in the Arab American. He's an Arab American leader person. Like, so I walk into Dr. Curtis's house, introduce myself, and then it turns into like 30-45 minutes of him talking to me about my great-grandparents.
That is amazing. That is amazing. That is such a cool story.
So speaking of other historians here in Indianapolis, specifically ones who are interested in Indianapolis history, there are so many people who have specific interests and specialities that it is possible that you could be a recurring guest, but it may not be in the context of just being a historian, because there's so many to talk to. Even I really respect Samson Livingston, who's over there doing walk and talks. Like, he's for sure going to be on the podcast, because what he's doing is highlighting, speaking of IU Indianapolis and destroying a historical like neighborhood, that is his main area of work or interest. So like talking about all these different aspects and angles of Indianapolis is what I'm really interested in. So
Yeah, well, fantastic.
Cool. But anyways,
how's your battery doing?
it's still chugging. So I have a confession. I have broken the chain of asking questions of the actually. So I do have a question to ask.
Okay.
But they do have a question for you.
Okay.
So the question they had was kind of, and this is we probably don't. I don't have anywhere to be, and we actually started early, so you probably have a little more time than I suspect. But their question was, how did Indianapolis history start? And I think that question is very wide and hard to answer. And
then black screen 4 hours later.
Yeah.
I'm still talking.
But I think maybe to drill into this, I know you've written something about this, which is why was Indianapolis, I'm going to adjust the question slightly, why was Indianapolis picked to be here?
Yeah.
In 1820? And then I guess that's maybe a much easier question to answer.
That is. That's a little more narrow. Well, Indianapolis, actually, I just had a podcast that kind of discussed this as well. There was nothing really here.
We'll point people there.
Yeah, well, in 1816, Indiana was a state. Our capital was in Corydon, down southern Indiana.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Shout out to Butt Drugs. May it rest in peace.
What was it?
Do you know what Butt
No.
Drugs is? In Corydon, Indiana, they used to have a pharmacy I think it was owned by the Butt family,
Oh, wait.
Yeah,
Yes, I
yeah.
have seen pictures of that.
and now it's closed.
See, I always
Used to
think
have
the
a-
State House and the Civil War battle that was there. Battle of Cordon was there, the only Civil War battle in Indiana.
Mine is way less serious. There used to be a pharmacy there called Butt Drugs.
No, I have seen pictures of that. Boy, I completely forgot about that. Well, but getting away from butt drugs for a moment, the state's constitution anticipated that the population of Indiana, the Euro-American white population, would settle northward from the White River up north as the various Native American lands were, treated away, mainly treaties, but at the same time, taken. And they anticipated that, and the Constitution mandated that the seat of government, the state capital, had to be moved by 1825. And in 1820, they sent commissioners up into present day what was called the New Purchase. It was an area that a Native American treaty that had gotten the land from the Lenape, the Miami, various other Native American groups into this area where Indianapolis is now, to find a new seat of government. And the White River was identified as a spot early on. Not only White River being a river, the main river going through the central part of the state, but also they wanted a site close to the political center of the future state. So they started looking at a few sites in and around where Indianapolis is today. Not only where we're sitting today, or downtown, the mile square down that area was considered, down by Waverly, down on, if you go south of the city on I-69, right near Highway 144, there's a bunch of hills. That was also considered. There were also some sources that suggested Connor's Prairie was considered. William Connor, his trading post up there, was also considered as a site. But really the idea was they needed to be on a navigable river, I actually have a talk coming up in a couple of weeks, or in September, about the navigability of the White River at the Irvington Historical Society, and at the political center. And that's how Indianapolis found its place. Because really, before that, there were a few random settlers, squatters basically, and Native Americans, of course, were in the area, but the Lenape Native Americans, their primary population centers were on the White River north of the city. There was a few villages and
So they
camps.
at least attempted to not totally oust them?
Oh no, they'd already been ousted. Yeah,
Okay,
they were
well,
done.
I mean, that is just...
No, the 1818 treaty basically ousted the Lenape off their lands along the White River up in Hamilton County and those areas. So
Tale as old as time.
exactly. But I do have a blog post about the Native American presence in and around Indianapolis at the time the city was founded.
Is there anything you don't have a blog post about?
Oh gosh, at this point. Trust me, I mean, I can't remember how many I've got, but that's the thing. It's common, like, oh, I have a blog post about that. I just don't remember all the details. Go read the blog post. But it actually explores the Native American presence and talks about how there were still Native Americans in the area into the 1830s, passing through and things like that. So, but that's how Indianapolis was chosen for this site.
That's so interesting and you could ask that question of like every city. That's so like, I mean, Chicago, I mean, well, to an extent, like Chicago, Louisville, these types of places, it's kind of like obvious in a way.
Yeah. Chicago there was a fort, there was a river, there was also a Native American village in the spot in that location. Fort Wayne had a Native American village, and then Mad Anthony Wayne built up the fort there. Louisville, all those cities along the river Ohio River had river access. Yeah. Indianapolis had really nothing. It was just
the navigable White River.
Yeah. Well, it was during high water. You could send things down the river. You just couldn't get back up again. So
that's. Yeah, so that I guess it is unique in that way. That's so interesting when you think about it in that context. Well, anyways, we are towards the end. One last question, as you know. What question? Did you write one down? I did. Oh my God, what a nerd!
No, absolutely a nerd. I've been struggling with this. I've been thinking long and hard, and I would say I was kind of workshopping with my wife as well. But my question is. Something that is no longer in Indianapolis, like a restaurant, a bar, a cultural site, or even like a menu item at a restaurant, that you miss and want to tell people about.
What if they're too new to know?
Something that is in their hometown.
Okay, just in general, something you miss.
Yeah, there we go. If they're too new to Indianapolis, just keep it general.
That's a really good
But
question.
even if you've been in Indianapolis for 5 years, there's something that you miss.
I'm gonna answer
Fire away.
for Louisville.
Oh, for Louisville. Okay. All right.
In Louisville, this is so stupid. It's so stupid, but in Louisville, when I was a kid, there was you know Gaddy's Pizza?
Yeah.
In Louisville, there was a place called Gaddy Land, which is a Gaddy's Pizza, but it was a buffet style, which I think Gaddy's Pizza is. But they had games, so it was like a Dave and Buster's.
Dave and Buster's.
Dave and
Nice.
Buster's style Gaddyland pizza.
Cool.
And you would go there for like every school field trip at lunch, go to Gaddyland. Whenever my brother would come home, he would take his friends there. Like if he had friends from out of town visiting, he would just go to Gaddyland. Like it was cheap.
Chuck E. Cheese?
It's basically
Or
Chuck
Showbiz
E. It's
Pizza?
basically Chuck E. Cheese. But I loved it, and I still like I hold on to this so tightly.
Minus the animatronics and the.
There are no animatronics or anything. It's just like, you know, crappy games where you get tickets or whatever and bad prizes. But I just, now there's like a crappy furniture store that I'm sure does fine.
Oh.
But like I would much rather have Gaddyland pizza.
Well, I grew up in Greenwood. We did have a Showbiz Pizza and then Chuck E. Cheese. But what I always think back to is a restaurant called Fast Patty's. It was at the corner.
This is your answer.
This is in Greenwood where I grew up.
Yeah.
And it was, we moved there in '89, and it was on the corner of Fry Road and US 31 northwest corner. And man, the French fries there were fantastic. The burgers, which were just these, very unassuming looking burgers, were just so tasty. And now it's a Shell station.
Isn't that so? It's
Yeah.
always a car thing.
It's always a car thing.
wash.
But man, that place was I just remember going there because when we first moved there, it was so good. And every time, my wife will tell you, every time we drive past it, I'm like, that's where Fast Patty's was. I'm like, yeah, I know.
That's so funny. It's so funny to think about. There's so many like random things in Louisville that are just gone. There was a place called like Grinders or something like that. They sold.
Restaurant,
Oh no, it's called. I don't know.
sandwiches?
They sold Grinder sandwiches,
Yeah.
but it was called like Marcinos or I don't know.
See, that's every city. Just in Indianapolis, I've been here, I've lived in the area since '89, but actually Indianapolis, for the past 18 years, like the neighborhood my wife and I, when we first moved to, when we first got married at 17th and Central, there were a lot of empty lots, and there was like a house across the street from us that had just been constructed and was being sold for like $600,000, and a bunch of empty lots because the area was undergoing a change. And now you drive through there and it's just, you just don't recognize it. I mean, all these new houses, and it's the change that you see in just the course of 15, almost 20 years is amazing. And it just died.
We lost it. We'll pass back and forth.
Okay, let me take this off here.
Hopefully it saved all that.
Go for it. Well, if we need to redo this, let me know. That's okay.
I don't know when it died, but yeah, I totally agree. But that was an incredible question. I think that even for anyone, there's something, as long as they're above the age of 5, that they missed. So, anyways, thanks for joining me.
Absolutely, Michael. Appreciate it.
Where can the people find you? Ed Fujawa. There's a lot of places.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
hit it up.
You can find me on Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram. I'm also on Facebook, but I don't do much there. Also a website, class900indie.com. And then also my podcast, Yesterday's Indianapolis, which covers various Indianapolis-related topics. And then check out my social media as well, because that announces where various speaking engagements.
I have one coming up in a couple weeks at the Central Library talking about the history of Eagle Creek Reservoir. So always waterway stuff with me. I love waterway history. Transit history is fun, but waterway history
Fisherman
is,
in training.
well, wanna be. I mean, are you a fisherman if you just stand there and enjoy the view?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Why not?
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thought I had was that when you get the answer to this question, that you now have to go do research about whatever that thing is. Not the question that you asked
Oh, absolutely.
of the next person. You're gonna be like, oh, I have to go find out about the old Gaddyland, whatever the Gaddyland is for the next person.
Happy to do that.
But anyways, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Third Space Indie. You can find me at thirdspaceindy.com, actually. Thirdspaceindy.com. I write a weekly blog for every episode. Have you read the blog?
I have.
Oh, that's very nice. What did you think of it?
I like it.
Oh, thank you.
The podcast has been fantastic to listen to, too. So.
That's very kind of you to say. Yeah, thirdspaceindy.com. There's a blog. You can put your email in, get the email. No one's done that, but that's okay. My mom sent me $100 because you can pay me on there, but I don't normally advertise that. And then also at Third Space Indie on Instagram.com, I post clips. It's going to be less now because I did get a job shout out. Woohoo! And the intro music is done by local artist, Jennison. The song Scared Rabbit is my intro song. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, listening, riding along, whatever you do. Hope to share the next one with you. Have a great day. Bye.
Awesome.